Yozo can't understand how to act in society. Resisting by being inauthentic doesn't work. Being overly sincere only leaves the individual open to further judgment. Resisting isolation is impossible within the framework of no longer human. If one cannot force society to accept oneself, is there a way to negate isolation? That is, make it so the painful effects of isolation doesn't affect the individual, even if it does not get rid of their isolation in reality. Trying to resist isolation, whether that is by being completely inauthentic or being completely honest, sincere and self-deprecating with everyone you meet, doesn't work. Alright. So, if we can't resist isolation, that is, effectively convince society to accept you by changing yourself, is there a way that you can negate the effects of isolation, even if you continue to remain as isolated from society as you were before? Maybe. Let's get into it. But first, well, hello there. This is Zurich, and right now we're up in the air, where we free fall into books, poetry, and anything else we decide to get into. Now that we're all acquainted, let's make our descent. Geronimo! Before I get started, I'm gonna have to state a trigger warning here. I've been mostly avoiding it, or I've been able to mostly avoid it, but you can't really get round talking about Osamu Dazai without there being some extensive talk about voluntaria morte, which I will now refer to VM, so that I don't sound too pretentious constantly speaking Latin, baby.
Yeah. Yeah, baby! Yeah.
So there are 3 ways Yozo tries to negate isolation in the novel. These are 1. Negation through substances. 2. Negation through BM. And 3. Negation through art. Negation through substances. Okay. So, Yozo uses substances to negate the isolation he feels. A significant part of the narrative is when Yozo moves to Tokyo and meets Horiko, who together experience the hedonistic pleasures the city has to offer. For the first time in Yozo's life, he is able to make connections with other people without the intense feeling of isolation. However, this is only because every interaction that is removed from the feelings of isolation and alienation happens to be paired heavily with some sort of substance. Horiko takes Yozo to a cafe, and at the start, Yozo feels truly out of place. He keeps folding and unfolding his arms, and his smiles now were really bashful. However, in the course of drinking 2 or 3 glasses of beer, he began to feel a strange lightness of liberation. It seems that with the addition of overindulgent and mind-altering substances, Yozo is able to lose a sense of self, and in doing so, he's able to negate the isolation he feels is inherent within his being. Yozo expresses this idea explicitly, stating, "I feel afraid no matter where I was. I wondered if the best way to obtain some surcease from this relentless feeling might not be to lose myself in the world of some big cafe where I would be rubbed against crowds of drunken guests, waitresses and porters." More explicitly, Yozo comes to the realization that for him, drink, tobacco and butterflies of the night, I suppose I'm gonna call them,
I got me. An officer in Manhattan.
Were all excellent means of dissipating, even for a few moments, his dread of human beings. Importantly, the word used here is not resolving a dread in human beings, but dissipating. Substances do not fix the isolation, but only make the effect disappear for a time. It is also telling that Yozo drinking with Horiko marks the beginning of their friendship. Take that what you will. A bonus effect in negating the feeling of isolation through substances is that for a time there is the added opportunity for Yozo to feel like he does not need to hide and pretend his nature. This brief opening to be honest, actually honest, allows the potential for Yozo to feel connected with other people, as well as enable him to feel emotions of affinity, comfort, closeness, and something approaching true intimacy, but only approaching it. A little. It is after drinking liquor in a bar that Yozo can say that the waitress in front of him did not intimidate him. After drinking liquor, he felt no obligation to perform clownish antics for her. Drinking in silence, not bothering to hide the taciturnity and gloominess which were his true nature. This interrelation between substances and creating a connection is taken to the extreme. The night that Yozo drank more than he ever had in his life is also the first time in his life he was conscious of a positive, if feeble, movement of love in his heart. The fact that this small realization of love is irrevocably linked with him vomiting and passing out from drinking so much seems important to mention. So what is it then? Is it that to be able to be comfortable in my skin and sincerely connect with someone else, all I have to do is to get absolutely obliterated with substances? Okay, yeah, cool, I'll take that. Wait, hold on. To be transparent, this is actually how a lot of people, especially young people, square this circle. They don't know how to interact with people and feel uncomfortable talking to people unless they're intoxicated. For many people, the idea of social drinking is not that you like to drink in a social environment, but that you can only comfortably socialise only when you drink. Dazai crystallizes this idea of needing to drink to not overthink when communicating with others, or when needing to be able to mentally get through an uncomfortable interaction. In another story of his, Cherry, stating, when you drown your sorrows in drink, you can't remember what it is you were trying to say. You drink because things are tedious and annoying. The people who are always able to express clearly what's on their mind never get dead drunk like that. However, as you might imagine, this benefit is only temporary and has terrible consequences, as Dazai's narrative of Yozo attests. Taking morphine, for example, might have made it so that Yozo's insecurity, fretfulness and timidity were swept away completely for a time, and morphine might have increased Yozo's work output and thus made his position more legitimate in respectable society, i.e. made his actions and demeanour more acceptable because he was a productive worker in society. That may be the case, that might be true. In the end, however, taking substances is no bueno, especially over a long period of time, and Yozo realises his addiction not only ruins his health but also exacerbated his isolation. In fact, he truly reached the extreme of his shamelessness through his addiction. If we were to see shame as an element of regulating society's behaviour, like I said in the last episode, if you want to watch that, it's somewhere either here or there. I'm just going to point to both so that one of them is correct. One is going to be correct. Watch that to know about shame and its connection to isolation. Anyway, then Yozo's shamelessness of a substance abuser is an overall symbol of his complete disconnection from society. Society's judgment of this errant behaviour is to complete the person's isolation by making it physical, which in No Longer Human is in the form of a sanatorium. People who get into the asylum are crazy, and those who don't are normal. Thus, it seems that instead of substances negating the isolation he feels, he increases his isolation and mental displacement to the point where he is physically displaced, removed from associating with respectable society, and would always be in some way separate from them. In this, he would be forever branded on the forehead with the word madman, or perhaps reject. As addicts are often viewed even in today's society, Yozo's substance abuse is the final act that made him be judged by wider society to cease utterly to be a human being.
Yeah, baby. Yeah.